Good, happy Monday evening. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Monday evening edition of Politics with Riley King. Let's begin. First up, Kamala Harris rises into second place in new St. Anselm College poll of New Hampshire primary voters. California Senator Kamala Harris, 3 percentage points behind Biden. Sanders drops to 5th place. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
Out the door when it matters most. For more than a decade, he's been right there, everywhere. And when American jobs are on the line, he leads the charge. ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast, and we thank you.
After drawing big crowds on a weekend visit, Kamala Harris now has polling numbers to show that the energy behind her campaign in New Hampshire appears to be for real. The latest poll from the St. Anselm College Survey Center shows her leaping into second place behind Joe Biden. Within a point of Harris is Elizabeth Warren, and Pete Buttigieg is at 11.5%. But Neil Levesque of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics says the story right now is the momentum propelling Harris from last month's debate.
It looks like Harris has really gone up about 11 points, which is very significant at this point.
According to this poll, Bernie Sanders continues to slide. He's at 9.9%. Andrew Yang is a step down at 4.9%. Then there's Amy Klobuchar at 2.7% and Marianne Williamson at 1.5%. Rounding out the poll at around 1% or less are Cory Booker, Tulsi Gabbard, Kirsten Gillibrand, Jay Inslee, and Beto O'Rourke. 11% of the registered voters interviewed said they were still unsure of their choice. While not all of the candidates were included in this poll, Neil Levesque says it's still a wide-open race.
We're not counting any of these other candidates out. There's a lot of candidates in the field, a lot of people to choose from, and so we should have a very vibrant fall with this race going into the presidential primary.
Again, this is still July, very early in this process, but right now on the Democratic side, we are trending toward a multi-candidate fight for first in New Hampshire. In the studio, Adam Sexton, WMUR, News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Kuster says conditions at the border are humanitarian crisis. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Tim Callery.
Representative Kuster went to 2 locations in Texas, and she says she is disturbed by what she saw. Now, her main concern is with the Border Patrol station in McAllen. She describes the conditions there as horrendous and calls the situation a true humanitarian crisis. She says people are being held in cells that are designed to hold people 24 to 48 hours, but some are being held for 40 to 60 days. She says Border Patrol says overcrowding has become a major issue.
These are in cement cells. They cannot lay down. They have no bedding. They had no showers or bathing. They hadn't even been able to brush their teeth. So truly a humanitarian crisis, I think human rights violations that we're very disturbed by.
And Kuster adds that Border Patrol is asking for more facilities and personnel to deal with the overcrowding issue, something she says she has taken back to D.C. Live in the newsroom, I'm Tim Callery, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Senator Jeanne raises $1.9 million in second quarter of 2019 for re-election bid. Campaign says two-term Democrat senator entered July with $2.8 million on hand. Do not take the bite. Democrat lawmakers respond to Trump go back remarks. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Concert was like an out-of-body experience.
Why the Yusuf Say sisters chose Verizon.
We were right in center, front row. Actually, Serena, you touched on my
I touched on him, just like held my hand for a while, and then we got to meet him after, which was like
another surprise.
Yeah, we love Verizon even more now, and I'll never forget that day.
The network more people rely on gives you more. Like thousands of tickets to concerts, festivals, and private shows. And big savings on our best phones when you switch. That's Verizon.
Congresswomen tonight are fighting back against President Trump's racist tweet suggesting they go back to their countries. All four are U.S. citizens. They have to be to get elected. And three of them were born here in this country, including New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The tweets were widely attacked by Democrats and a handful of Republicans, but the president is not apologizing. In fact, if anything, he doubled down on them. Josh Einiger is in the newsroom with much more on today's developments. Josh.
And Liz, a lot has happened in the past hour. Just in the last few minutes, the four duly elected members of Congress emerged at the Capitol to respond not just to those racist tweets by the president, but also to his comments today in the White House Rose Garden when he doubled down on his tweets, saying these four American citizens, three of whom, as you point out, are American-born, should go back to where they came from.
These are people that if they don't like it here, they can leave. In one case, you have somebody that comes from Somalia, which is a failed government, and now is a congresswoman who's never happy. It doesn't concern me because many people agree with me, and all I'm saying, they want to leave, they can leave.
He was saying it doesn't concern him that people see his tweets as racist because other people agree with him. This is the tweet that started this particular firestorm when he said that congresswomen should go back to what he called the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came. The president was widely seen as trying to drive a wedge between these four progressive congresswomen who call themselves the Squad and most other congressional Democrats amid a growing rift that was threatening to break apart the majority in Congress. But of course, these tweets only seem to have unified Democrats, giving them all something to agree on.
And so the first note that I want to tell children across this country is that no matter what the president says, this country belongs to you. And it belongs to everyone. And today, that very notion was challenged. We'll stay focused on our agenda, and we won't get caught slipping, because all of this is a distraction. It's a distraction from what's most important and from our core values as American citizens.
And of course, the president was live tweeting during this press conference saying, and I'm quoting here, "If you are not happy here, you can leave. This is about your love for America." He accused these congresswomen of hating the United States. You heard Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez there calling this a distraction. Well, it has certainly distracted attention from the president's promised immigration raids that were to happen over the weekend in cities across the country, including New York, raids that, at least so far, seem not to have materialized.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Former Vice President Joe Biden rolls out expanded Affordable Care Act health plan. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Was surreal.
Why the Yusuf Say sisters chose Verizon.
We were
Right in center, front row.
I'll never forget that day.
The network more people rely on gives you more. Like big savings on our best phones when you switch. That's Verizon.
So, guys, we move on to the 2020 race. Two presidential candidates unveiling major health care plans today. Big moves from former Vice President Joe Biden and Cory Booker. I want to bring in Zareen Shah, who's following the candidates in Iowa. Good to see you, Zareen. What are the key highlights from their plans? Let's start with Joe Biden.
Hi, Kimberly. First, let me actually tell you why all this is being released this week. So we're in Des Moines right now. We are just a few hours away from the big AARP forum. There's going to be a lot of candidates there, nearly 20 candidates. They're going to be up in front of many senior citizens, and all of them want to know their vision for America. So the first person you mentioned, Joe Biden, he just released a plan this morning. A lot of people are calling it the Affordable Care Act 2.0, that it's building off of some of the more popular parts of Obamacare. Now, he also wants to add a public insurance option that'll be run by the government, and he wants Medicare to have the power to negotiate drug prices and also to be able to allow to bring prescription drugs from abroad. Now, his team is saying that this entire plan, there's many more points to it, but the entire plan would cost $750 billion over the next 10 years. Kimberly?
Yes, and then Senator Cory Booker as well. What are the distinctions that separate his health care plan?
So his is a lot more specific. It focuses primarily on seniors. It's a long-term care plan. He wants more seniors to be eligible for the plan, and he also wants to take care of the people who are taking care of those seniors. He wants to allow them to have a $15 minimum wage an hour rate. He wants to provide them with more training, and he also wants to have people who are the primary caregivers of these seniors, people who are their family members, to also have a major tax cut. Now, he will be speaking alongside, well, not alongside, but on the same day as Joe Biden today at the AARP Forum. Amy Klobuchar and John Hickenlooper will also be speaking today, and then over a dozen candidates throughout this week. Kimberly?
All right. Thank you so much, Serene. Good to see you. We appreciate it.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that did it for this Monday evening edition of Politics with Riley King. I hope you all enjoyed this Monday evening edition of Politics with Riley King. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Politics with Riley King. Have a wonderful night and goodbye.